Oh, so you don't want gay people in your own. So you're blaming gay people for problems in Black relationships, right? But then you have a gay person that wants to help physically in the community, but you're not that diverse. You don't want that help. You don't want that help, right? Wow, right? And you know what? I realized over years and years of research and study, that's exactly what the white supremacists want. That is the generational curse of AIDS, the fight against AIDS. Why? Because gays are helpers. Gays are AIDS. They are AIDS, right? They are AIDS. They are the helpers of the community. What's going on? I'm AnokhiTheOne, back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be reacting to a video of, I guess they claim that Umar Johnson destroyed this lesbian feminist at a panel. And so I want to watch this and check it out and give my unbiased opinion. Of course, y'all are going to think I'm biased either way, but let's see. We shall see what I think.
Queen.
I'm actually going to pass it to my sister after we finish.
Okay, so y'all set me up.
No.
Go ahead.
All right, Dr. Umar, my name is Diane. Resident here in Kansas City, and I am one of those ugly Black feminists that you are not a fan of. So I appreciate you coming here to Kansas City, and I figure if I'm going to have something to say, I'm going to say it to your face, so I do appreciate it. I do appreciate you addressing my concerns regarding anti-LGBT rhetoric and anti-feminist rhetoric, so I appreciate you saying that up front. So my question is, the exact definition of hate speech is speech that offends, threatens, insults groups based on race, color, religion, natural origin, sexual orientation, disability, or other traits. That is the definition of hate speech. We can say all day long that we don't hate a particular type of person, but I want to know, how is that rhetoric any different than white folks that say that Black people are thugs, are mentally not together, that we are unintelligent? How is it possible? How is that not different as a Black man saying that Black feminists are ugly, saying that queer people are, you said it earlier, I can see you on tape. How is that different than saying that gay people are molested, that we are pedophiles? How is that any different than white people? He has said that online, and I have the video. Yes, you have. No, you did say that online.
Pause. First of all, I feel that, for one, she's not very confident. She's not very confident in what she's talking about. And I can tell she's very nervous. She's looking at her paper, reading, and different things like that. Already, I'm very nervous. I feel like she's about to get dragged because that was trash. Like, it wasn't, what was the substance? It just wasn't good.
I was accused and derided, as some of you guys know, because of my position on sexual confusion in the African American community. And I understand we may have a few visitors tonight, and I don't mind, okay, of that community. And so I think it's important that I clarify my perspective on Black homosexuality and lesbianism so that we're all crystal clear on where I stand.
Lesbianism.
Yes, it is true, I do not support it. Yes, it is true, I do not condone it. But it is absolutely false if anyone says that Dr. Umar Johnson hates any of our brothers and sisters who practice a traditional lifestyle, a non-traditional form of marriage.
Right, so my question is, how is this anti-woman, anti-gay rhetoric any different than white folks who say that Black people are dumb, that we're thugs? Homophobia is hate speech.
Yeah, she's not coming with a strong argument. She's just throwing things out there like homophobia. She's saying stuff like hate speech. She's trying to compare being Black to being gay or whatever, which is never, ever, 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 ever going to work in a crowd of Black people. It's just not. It's just not. It's just not. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's just not. It's just not. So, and it's just like, it seems to me like it's very obvious that she's used to being in a area or a group of people who affirm her, and 9 times out of 10, those group of people are not the same color as her. You get what I'm saying? So when she comes into a group where it's nothing but black people, it just doesn't resonate because, girl, look, you seem like you've been patted on the back for about a few years, and that's just not gonna go. It ain't gonna fly. Look how the way, and this is also like, when it comes to like debate, when it comes to the art of war, all this different type of stuff, you could already see who's already won the battle. Like, if this is a battle of debate, you've already seen who won the debate. Okay, you just...
You
can.
All right. Now, first, we got to take the emotionalism out of it.
Okay, take the emotion, like I said.
We won't be able to dialogue, okay? I'm going to respond, but for the sake of time, I'm going to answer everybody's question. And if you like, when I'm done, me and you can have a private, respectful conversation. Okay? Now, okay, well, let me do this one. I'm going to go through, then we can come back to it if you want to have that conversation. Number one, and because I got ADHD, I didn't remember everything, but I think I could get to most of the highlights of what you said. First, you said homophobia.
Yes. She lost with that already. I'm not afraid of gay people. Like, that's so stupid. Why are you using that?
Oh, you're going to tell me
That's
that's
whack.
mental illness from outdated DSM-3 that was abolished in
whack.
1973? Don't try it.
That's like history.
This is not the
DSM-5?
History.
This is the DSM-5.
Oh, that we're mentally ill. Go ahead. Go ahead. I just want to hear you answer the question.
And I'm going to be respectful to you, okay?
Very.
I didn't pick this up to talk about the fact that homosexuality was a mental illness in this book until 1974. But since you brought it up, I'll start with that. If you read the American Psychiatric Association position paper on the removal of homosexuality from this book as a mental illness, and I have it, it's available online, it clearly says that we did not change this classification because we had sufficient evidence to prove that people were born this way. So one of the questions that got to be dealt with from the Eurocentric mental health framework that we're dealing with this issue in, why was it removed?
Pause. Now, a good rebuttal to that, which is a lot of woke people, right? No, I have nothing against Umar Johnson, but a good rebuttal to that would have been the fact that drapetomania was also registered in these European books as a mental illness, which basically was a condition where Black people wanted to run from slavery. Like, that was considered a mental condition. Okay, so it was prescribed by these European doctors, and they would say, oh, your slave has something called drapetomania, and it is a desire to run from their master, right? And so with that, we need to medicate your slave because they have this drapetomania. So if she had done more research and she wanted to combat that, she would question him, right, on the validity of using European medicine and medical practices, especially mental medical practices, which has been weaponized against the Black community since the beginning of time. That's what you would question, and that's how you would debunk really that, right? Because it's crazy how pro-Black people use European sources and different things like that to combat homosexuality. But whenever Europeans use European sources to combat Black people and their power movements and their ideologies, they say, oh, it's European, so it doesn't count, right? So keep the same energy. Keep the same energy.
Now, having said that, I picked up the book to ask you, on what page is the mental illness homophobia?
It's not a mental illness. It's a disease, just like racism a disease.
Who defined homophobia as a disease? This is the authority of mental.
See, terrible. See, like even already she started off on the defense, right? She started off on the defense and he's playing offense, right? He has an offense in his hand, which isn't a very good offense if you ask me. If you're supposed to be so pro-black and you're supposed to be so awakened and African and all this other stuff, you should know the medical industry has been, especially the psychological medical industry, has been used to weaponize against all of us, like the whole of humanity, right? So, but by her, she's giving him ammunition by saying, you're homophobic. By labeling him and doing all this, all he has to do is break down her argument. It's very easy because she doesn't have a very strong argument in the first place. She's just like, I don't like that you're homophobic and you're making me feel sad about myself and I'm not confident enough in myself and I need your affirmation to make me feel okay with myself. That's basically, and that's not gonna work in the black community at all whatsoever. It's just not.
Mental illness. Where is the diagnosis homophobia?
It's not a diagnosis. It's a state
No, a phobia.
of being. It's a state of
No,
being.
phobia.
It's a
A
state
phobia.
Is a
A
fear.
phobia is in
It's
this
a
book.
medical
Okay, so
term.
And a
Speech against
phobia, let me,
Okay.
phobia is fear. Simple phobia, any type of claustrophobia, it's a fear. You said homophobia.
I'm not afraid of gay
I'm not
people.
afraid of nobody.
How did I know that was coming? Come on, bro. That's what I hate. I'm not gonna say hate, that's a very strong word. I cannot stand when there is a ill-prepared, and they're almost always very, very ill-prepared, okay? Lesbian or feminist or somebody that's trying to do women's rights, because for one, it's very hard for women to gain up the confidence to speak in the first place. Like, that's just period, right? And a lot of times when they're speaking to men, they're not used to having this kind of dialogue, so they end up just trying to cut them off and try to like trying to win with emotion, and that just does not work. It doesn't work. You get what I'm saying? And it's just like because and it's also like almost like a sport, right? So if you grow up with sports, you're growing up with wins and losses and counters and different things like that, and you're not taking stuff personal. You're not feeling like he's attacking me. Oh my gosh, he's attacking me. He's attacking my point. You end up looking like if you can actually take what he's saying, you can receive it, you can listen to it, and then you can respond, right? He's responding, she's reacting, right? And this is why she's losing this battle, and it's a mess, and it's all over the internet.
And ask homosexuals and lesbians to have conversations with them on their radio shows. I normally accept the invitation for respectful dialogue. I don't run from the opportunity if it's going to be respectful. Now, I stand by my position as a psychologist, as an educator, as a therapist for normally 20 years, and in 95% of the cases of gay and lesbians I personally know and met and worked with, most of them were victims of sexual abuse as children. I'm speaking not what some white person wrote in some research study. I'm telling you what I know. Amongst black folk, it is a pathology born of childhood sexual victimization.
Pause. Okay. Now, you have to understand that 1 out of 3 women in general, this is another thing that people say all the time. Okay. 1 out of 3 women in general, 1 out of 6 men in general are sexually assaulted. They're sexually abused in some way, shape, or form. I didn't have that experience. And I think for me, also growing up to the point where I was a virgin until I was 25, that was also a very strange thing to happen. Like, that's also a very, like, not stereotypical gay thing, right? So for one, didn't come out till I was 20, didn't do anything sexually until I was 25. So I didn't come out. A lot of people come out because they got into a relationship and they're just like, well, this is me, blah, 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 right? So that was not my experience. So my journey has been very different and very, it debunks a lot of myths, I think, about sexuality. But also, like, for one, you can say that, but then you also have to acknowledge that gays, lesbians, LGBT, people that are considered those things have existed since like the beginning of time, since ancient times. So is this happening in ancient times? Like, is this the only he's saying that it's born out of that. That's one. But there's been gays and lesbians, trans and hermaphrodites. That's another thing. Like, when you talk about this, an easy way to shut that down is like, okay, so what about hermaphrodites, right? Hermaphrodites are born with male and female reproductive organs. So basically, no matter who they get into a relationship, that would be considered some form of homosexuality or bisexuality because they're both. So it doesn't matter who they date. And then people try to dismiss it. They're like, oh, there's barely any. Well, there's 6 times as many hermaphrodites as there is trans people. There's the same amount of hermaphrodites born every year or intersex people born every year as redheads. Okay, and nobody looks at redheads as if they are redhead because of some kind of thing that happened in their childhood, right? So it's sad because, you know, people in the Black community applaud that, which I kind of think is really creepy. They applaud that because it's like, yeah, that's right, you this way because you got assaulted and abused. But at the same time, it's like, it's so sick and twisted and crazy. But it's like, the Black community will defend abusers. They will defend pedophiles to the end. They will defend the Cosbys, the R. Kellys, the creepy uncles. They will defend them till the end. They're not trying to say, well, you know what, you like this because of this and I don't condone it and I don't accept it. No. Instead, when somebody is abused by those people, they're like, you know what, he got a problem, that's your uncle, and don't tell nobody, and then if they do wild out, if they end up being a stripper, or they end up doing anything that you feel like you don't condone because you feel like that's the root of it, then you mad at them, but you ain't mad at the uncle.
Denial is at the root of all mental illness. It's easy to say, I was born like this, so I don't have to deal with the pain that triggered it. Now, I never said that because you are gay, you want to prey on children sexually. Now, do you have a strong case of homosexuals and lesbians who prey on children? Look at the Roman Catholic Church. We don't have to debate whether or not folks who are sexually confused who may also prefer children.
Pause. Because the Roman Catholic Church, you gonna use the Roman Catholic Church? And then also they use this statistic. A lot of times they use this statistics. They say, 50 or 60% of all rape cases and child abuse cases are from homosexuals. Right? And I did the research, right? I actually did the research. I was like, oh, let me look that up for myself. What they don't say is that they consider a pedophile, like for example, a creepy uncle or whatever. If a pedophile is a man and he abuses a little boy, that's considered they consider that man a homosexual. Even if that man does not consider himself a homosexual who is wanting to be with consenting adults. Right? So, So that's the same thing with the Catholic Church and the Pope. I'm mad. Let me drink my water. Because they do this too much. Y'all play. It's saying y'all want to get mad about black on black crime. And all these different types of statistics. You're like, oh, they're counting wrong. This is blatant. Y'all know good and well these popes, okay, in the Catholic Church are the main ones condemning homosexuality. And this is another thing. This is a large reason why so many people who have homosexual tendencies, even at a young age, that are like, for example, women that are more masculine or men that are more feminine, they're given into the hands of these therapists, of these popes and these Catholic priests and different things like that. The origin story of the boogeyman is a corrupted priest, right? Who convinces the parents that there's something wrong with their child, so that their parents give their child up to the priest, so the priest can then abuse, rape, molest, okay, the child, okay? And then because the parent sees them twitching, it might be a boy that's wearing dresses already, nothing ever happened to him, you bring them to the priest, and now you're confirming that bias that you already have. And when that child comes back and says, well, the priest abused me and they did this when I was little, and you say, oh, that's why you're gay. No, fool. You put your own child in the position. I know a guy who, very feminine, right? Very feminine. As a child, he would wear dresses, different things like that. And his parents, super religious, took him to some ministry and did missionaries overseas, right? And he ended up getting captured, right? As if the missionary mission was not to take him and bring him to the captors, right? So he ended up being sex trafficked overseas. They couldn't find him for years. They finally found him, okay? And then he came back and was completely and totally traumatized. He was used as a sex slave overseas for years, okay? Traumatized. And what does his parents do? What are they worried about? What are they worried about? My son is gay. Oh my gosh, now my son, he's come out as gay. So they want to put him in conversion therapy to get him to not be gay anymore. And they're literally electrocuting him. He's getting electrocuted. He's the same age as me. Understand this. This boy is the same, this man now is the same age as me. Okay. They put him in by a psychologist like him, right? Work together to put all these little documents in people's head, have them so he goes from one boogeyman, okay, that had him in a missionary trip, sex traffic, to another boogeyman, right, who has him in conversion therapy, showing him all these sexual images, trying to get him to be aroused by women. This is what they do, trying to get him to be aroused by women. And then everybody there is gay men, and he's just like, I'm confused, right? It's just like, y'all are showing me he's a teenager, right? And this is another thing that people never ever talk about, okay? In what other instance is it okay for a strange adult, okay, who your child does not know? When other instant is it okay for them to talk about sex alone in a room with an adult when you're a child? Other than when your parent is afraid that you're gonna grow up and be gay, right? So you are positioning your child to be sitting in a room with a stranger, one-on-one, and having them asking your child very intrusive questions about a sexuality that they don't even know about really, and they shouldn't even be talking. Have you ever been with a guy? You don't know what kind of creep Do you see how that's a trap? Do you see how that's a trap? You see how that's a trap? Okay. And this boy was in that environment and was shocked, right? Every time he would be aroused by men. Do you see how terrible that is? Do you see what kind of monster you're creating because of these biases and these statistics that y'all want to use against children? A lot of times, children. Okay, y'all talking about, children shouldn't even know about sexuality and different things like that, but you constantly you're sexualizing children that you feel like are like a boy that you feel like is too feminine. You're sexualizing a girl that you feel like is too masculine. You're sexualizing them. You're putting things on them that they may not already have. And the society is also doing it, right? So, yikes. For him to put the Pope on homosexuality, that's
But
crazy.
am I going to wholesale indict the whole population and say because you gay, you want to molest children? I've never said that. I've never said that, and I never will say that. I'm very responsible with my words. Now,
No, you're not. You're not. You're
you drew a
not.
comparison that I
You're
would
not.
disagree with. You said, how is me disagreeing with homosexuality? How is that any different from the white man saying black folks was dumb and stupid and this and that? You know what the difference is? That was lies about us. That could be proven. You wrong. I don't denigrate or downgrade black gays and lesbians. Why would I do that? Do you realize black gay men have one of the highest suicide rates in America?
Because of speech like what you
No.
community.
Oh
If
no!
what
See, look. She out of there.
You say is
Shame
true.
and silence.
Listen,
Why
She out there.
What about before he was even born? What about before he was even born?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, okay, what about 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
Exactly. Y'all ain't talking about that. But you want to put that out there, but you ain't trying to have that conversation.
What about it?
There's no argument.
I'm asking you, but you said him.
Exactly.
So what about what was going on before he was born?
Exactly. And I just talked about it
inherited
all
and he
that.
decided to continue the
How?
conversation.
Thank you.
Well, okay, what about 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
She don't know.
What about it?
There's no argument.
I'm asking you, but you said him.
Exactly.
So what about what was going on before he was born?
He inherited it and he decided to continue the
How?
conversation.
Oh no. She said he inherited it and he decided to get. She out of there. She out of there. She's terrible. She out of there.
My queen, stay with me, stay with me.
She's lost it.
It is a political fact for anyone with common sense. It is a political fact for anyone with common sense. Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. Black Panther Party was destabilized in 1972. Homosexuality became normal in 1974. It is a political fact that homosexuality was declassified as an illness so it could be used to take over the black civil rights struggle.
Pause. Pause. Okay, I'm about to have to start this over. This is long. Pause. Pause. So your assumption, for one, okay, he says, so they ignored, what about 100 years ago? That was the question they asked. What about 100 years ago? What about 200 years ago? Right? They ignored that. I talked about that before. But they also mentioned Martin Luther King dying in the 60s. They also mentioned the Black Panther Party. Okay. But they didn't mention that there were several gays and lesbians in the Black Panther Party, in the Black Panther movement. Like, it's like they try to make LGBT history, and then they try to make Black history, as if somebody can't be Black and gay and lesbian, as if Bayard Rustin never existed, as if Bayard Rustin was not the mastermind and the architect behind Martin Luther King. Right? Pause. Without Bayard Rustin, literally, you are my sons. Okay, Bayard Rustin literally was the architect of nonviolent civil rights movements in the South. He literally taught Martin Luther King how to do a sit-in and a nonviolent protest without being killed. He would literally write and or edit Martin Luther King's speeches for him. Okay, and literally got kicked out of the civil rights movement because they used propaganda against him, right? And they tried to make it seem like basically Martin Luther King condones gay behavior or whatever, because Bayard Rustin was out. He was an out gay man, right? Everybody knew he was gay. But at the same time, they also knew he was the architect. So they kicked him out of the civil rights movement, right? Because they didn't want that to tarnish their image. And literally, Martin Luther King's movement came to a screeching halt until they hired him back. Okay, so what? Angela Davis? What? Okay, they're very powerful lesbians, very powerful gays. they were very, and they all, James Baldwin, stop playing with me. Malcolm X, y'all don't want me to get on Malcolm X. Okay, one of the most prolific, one of the most truthful, one of the most unapologetic civil rights leader of existence, okay, was very much an out gay man throughout his entire youth, okay, bragged about doing things with other men, okay, y'all don't want to acknowledge that, right? Because y'all don't want to acknowledge that somebody can be black and gay at the same time, and somebody can be a fighter for civil rights for black people and gay people at the same time. Because y'all want to have people pick when that doesn't make sense, right? So, and even the Black Panther, if you look at some of the documents, the Black Panthers joined with the LGBT movement because they, even at that time, they were like, what these gay people are going through is worse than what we're going through right now. Do the research. Look it up. They said what y'all are going through is worse. Let's combine, because we understand your struggle, right? But then you have people like him coming way late, and they want to point fingers and make it seem like in 1974 it became acceptable to be gay, but at the same time, not long after that, AIDS appears out of nowhere that wipes out an entire generation of gay people, specifically gay men. But it's acceptable? No, they just changed their strategy. Okay, they realized that the LGBT was gaining strength, so instead of fighting against it, they allied with it. That's what they did with the Black community. Instead of fighting against the Black community, they allied. They showed positive representation while they're at the same time creating genocide, medical genocide. Okay, medical genocide from the same kind of rhetoric, but they just made it physical, right? The same kind of rhetoric as what he's talking about. They medicalized it. Instead of making it a mental illness, they made it a medical illness, so they can claim that the gay men have AIDS now, but we support you. We're going to spend billions of dollars to find a solution when the solution is AIDS, and it's the thing killing you. But we're not going to tell you that. We're going to give you pride parades. Okay? And then we're going to put propaganda out there at the same time that we're claiming to be supporting you. We're going to dump that into the Black community. We're going to tell them that there's a gay agenda. We're going to create a document, right? And put it into Congress. And then we're going to send it into the Black community. You have people like him telling Black people that this is what it is. Don't accept it. The white man is trying to depopulate. We have never, ever in our history had a problem with populating the earth. I'm sorry. Okay. We've never had that problem. Okay. So
LBGT is what they call the new black. We know it's not black, but they're using it to ignore the black agenda in deference of the LBGT agenda. It is the only minority issue that matters in this country. Now let me ask you a question, my queen. Since we're talking about freedom of speech, where the hell was the LBGT movement when Michael Brown was murdered? Where the hell
what? They were all over all that.
Don't speak out against what goes on with black folks.
Answer that for you.
No, y'all don't.
Linda Ferguson, I started organizations here, and maybe
You're talking about you. I'm talking about that movement.
Guess what? The 3 women that started Black Lives Matter, both Patrice and Alicia, are queer Black women, and they were making
talking
sure.
about individuals.
I am talking
about
about
your
3
population.
Women. I am talking about 3 women.
Your
that started
population.
this movement.
Out against white
Yes,
supremacy.
they do.
And the
Yes,
reason
they do.
LBGT does not, I'm not talking about you as an individual,
I am
but the
talking- you
reason
are
why
incorrect.
the LBGT movement does not speak out against white supremacy is
You wanna
because they
bet?
are a part of it.
No, sir. I'm not about to play with you. I'm not about to play with you. Okay. First of all, we have to acknowledge, okay, that the Black, and I've said this a lot of times, I've said that the Black community, a lot of Black leaders are a part of white supremacy. That's number one, right? So he says things, and then when she's presenting, well, the Black Lives Matter movement was actually founded by LGBT women of color. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Black Lives Matter movement now, but when it started, it actually was a legit organization. And a lot of the people, even in indigenous time, you want to talk about 100 years ago, 200 years ago, like old dude said, the leaders of these types of movements that can go out in the world and fight for things were LGBT, right? They were people, the people without children, okay? So how many people do you think didn't go to a protest because, oh, I have kids at home, I have to take care of my kids, I have to make sure that my kids are safe? Well, if you have a population of people in your community that don't have kids, that population can go out and fight for your kids, for the community. And historically, Black lesbians, Black gays have done that, like Bayard Rustin, like all these different, like it's in our energy, it's in our purpose. In ancient times, that we were the gatekeepers. We were the ones outside the gates, making sure nobody that doesn't belong inside the gate is there. Right? So when he talks about, you want to know why your movement isn't fighting for our people and all this other stuff, it's because they're a part of white supremacy. Guess what? All these movements are a part of white supremacy. Anything that's mainstream, including you, honey bun, including your movement, honey bunny, right? Like all that. If you're on Fox News, if you're on CNN, if you're on all that, sir, you've likely been bought and paid for, right? Like you play a major part in the division that they need to create within the community. So it's never a full community where everybody plays their individual parts, right? In the community, right? And so you leave the gates wide open. So any and everybody who looks like what you look like can just stroll on through. Same thing with the LGBT. Right? If you don't have the gatekeepers and you're just saying, oh, well, as long as you're LGBT, you're welcome. No, you need to have the energy. Your energy needs to be right. Your vibes need to be right. You need to be coming with the right reasons. And what you doing? What's the tea? What's the tea, honey? Read you for filth. Who gonna read y'all for filth if you don't have no gatekeepers? Okay. And so like she, again, did not represent because she was not strong in her arguments, and he overpowered her. He has a microphone for one. He's on stage, and she should have taken his offer to talk about it privately, because you're just not going to win. You're not going to win that kind of battle. And she's not prepared. She's very ill prepared. She doesn't know enough history. When he said, what about 100 years ago, 200 years ago? If somebody would ask me that, I'd be like, let's go. Thank you for asking that question. Da, 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 da. Right? So, See? Well, look, he looked like he said something deep, knowing good well he getting paychecks from the white supremacists. 9 times out of 10. No offense, Umar Johnson.
And I love you. That's in love. That's in love. Number 4.
Now sit down.
Look up. I would say you have a fact.
Look at you pointing
That's
at.
right. Look up her story of the Black Lives Matter movement, and you will see that the 3 women that started that are feminists and true or queer,
She's over.
and they are not about the
She's
liberation
done.
of Black people, it's about the liberation of
She needs to sit herself down. She's already dug herself into a hole a long time ago.
I want to deal with that. I want to deal with that real quick. Because that is my issue with their movement. Stay with me. Let me go back to my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. Then we gonna move on.
Frederick Douglass?
Because one thing we got to do, y'all, I talk about this and y'all...
Frederick Douglass? Come on, you better say
I
something
talk
right.
about this. When we talk about the Black agenda, we have to stop taking time away from the Black agenda to feed other people's agendas.
Wait, pause. Wasn't your whole argument that you have a problem with the LGBT community because it doesn't support the Black community, but at the same time, you're saying that you don't want to have anything that takes time away from the Black community, even though there's LGBT people in the Black community? There are Black gay people. There are Black lesbian people. How is that not a part of the gay community? I mean, the Black community. But you want everybody else, Like, in order for you to take any steps around for anybody else, you want them to be wholeheartedly devoted to the Black agenda, right? You want them to be wholeheartedly, and even if they say, well, we are a part, we support you, we're well, we can't take time away from our agenda to help your agenda. That's why I don't give a damn. Like, look, I don't care. I wouldn't even get into a debate like that, trying to gain support from somebody like him, because I don't care.
I want to draw a parallel, respectfully. When Frederick Douglass was fighting for the right for blacks to get the vote, Susan B. Anthony and other white feminists told Frederick Douglass that you should not let the black man get the vote until the white woman get the vote. And Frederick Douglass said the struggle of a whole race ain't got a damn thing to do with your struggle against your man.
How in the hell does a white feminist have anything to do with a Black lesbian? Maybe you want to clarify.
No, stay with me.
I'm trying to stay with you.
You cannot equate the gay struggle with the black struggle.
This is why, like, the stuff they be saying is so illogical. It's so illogical. And that's why I don't put myself in any isms, because the fact that she's a lesbian feminist, she's put herself in the ism where people can say, oh, aha, white feminists, we're lesbian. Bitch, I'm not white. I'm not white. What are you talking about? What are you saying? Y'all got the right to, first of all, y'all got the right, y'all don't get me on black men when it comes to civil rights. Y'all got the right to vote before white women. Okay, for one, yes, you just confirmed that there, but also, y'all were slave owners before that even happened. Y'all were politicians before this whole struggle with beating with the right. Y'all were politicians, and white women still couldn't vote. Black women still couldn't vote. We were still considered the property of men, okay, at this time. So are you sure that you're representing a whole race of people when you're representing yourselves? Like, you're literally representing yourself, and that's fine. Like, but just say it. Just call it that. Just say that's what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Black women were still being able to do. Black men were able to say and do anything to a black woman, have her thrown in mental hospitals, psychiatric hospitals, psychologist over here, right? Come on. Like, how does, and that's crazy to me, because black men, and even if you go before the white man's power, right? The black man was enslaving the world, okay? Enslaving white people. Okay, so y'all were the kings and the emperors, and y'all were whipping and doing all this, okay, before the white man. So to come and be like, well, like as if black men are at the bottom. You're really like right below white men in society, right? In the societal norm, whatever. Okay, even in entertainment and all this other stuff. Like, y'all get the privileges like a couple tiers under white men. So I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I'm just not buying this idea that black men are so oppressed that they can't even hear or fathom. Black straight men are so oppressed that they cannot hear or fathom any other kinds of movements. And if you're black and you're gay, you need to pick one because we need you to be bowing down to us because we're the only one with struggles. No, sir. No, sir. Sorry. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not who I am and that I don't have a whole experience so I can bow down to your experiences. That, goddamn, I wish that was my issue. But for Frederick Douglass to even be able to say that in those times to a white woman lets you know what kind of power black men have had for hundreds of years. And they're applauding it, right? And if people really want to know the truth, okay, which y'all don't want to know the truth, right? But I'm going to tell you the truth. The way colonization has really destroyed the Black community or the Aboriginal American community was through getting the Black man, the Black pastors to kick the gatekeepers out, which is the Black LGBT community, right? To get them kicked out of the churches, get them kicked out of the communities, because we're not judging your race. We're not judging your whatever, like what you say. We're not judging by that. We're judging by your energy, right? The gatekeepers, right? The gays, they're trying to find the tea. Right. And so it don't matter if you're a Black man, if you're a Black woman, if you're a woman child, it don't matter if you're white, Black, Chinese, we're measuring your energy. We're gatekeeping the energy that you're bringing, and whether you're a snake or not. You get what I'm saying? And so after they convinced the Black community that they need to take the LGBT out of the community and that they are two separate parts, right? They're not one whole. That all their positions are not necessary, then that allowed the white supremacists to buy and pay for Black leaders, Black men, Black talking heads, right? Black Masons and different things like that coming through the sororities, all right? And getting trained in the ways of white supremacy and coming with this eugenics mindset, okay? And teaching it to the Black community and having the Black community committing abortions, right? How did the feminist who created the Planned Parenthood get to the Black community with abortion? Through the Black male pastor. So the Black man pastor. Did she go to the gay man pastor or the gay people? No. She bypassed the gatekeepers and went to the Black man pastor. 9 times 10 they paid them to talk about this. They gave them the scriptures, all right, that they should use to prove that aborting children is a part of health, and it helps the community, and it helps you to build wealth and be able to take care of yourselves. And, you know, it's a health issue, right? That we need to solve in your community, not ours. We're trying to get fertility clinics, right? So at the same time that they're convincing you that gays are a part of depopulation, okay, even though they're being born and they're alive, right? But they're a part of depopulation. But at the same time, they're telling you it's a health problem if you have too many children. At the same time, they're telling you abortion helps with building wealth and health in your community so people can afford things. And it's beautiful. That's not depopulation at all, even though you're taking the children out of the womb. But it's depopulation when your children is born and you see how backward that is? You could have 10 children. If one of them is gay, look, that's not depopulation. You got 10 of them. You probably need that gay child to help you raise the other 9. And tell me that does not happen in the Black community with a gay cousin or gay auntie that's helping you raise your children. Who's helping you raise your children now? Oh, no, I don't have anybody help me to raise my children. Now I need to abort. If you have the gay uncle, the gay cousin, the gay person, the person without children, they can help you to have as many children and babies as you want because you have assistance. You have a person that's there may not be looking to build a large family because their purpose is to gatekeep and protect the women and the children that are already here. Some of y'all are not. Y'all are not gonna get it. Y'all aren't gonna get it, but I really hope that y'all get it. And I'm just, let's see what his last one might say.
That's our problem. Respectfully. They are not together. No, my sister, no.
She's her argument is over.
Is a movement for the right to practice a certain behavior.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I hate when people act real dumb. Now, you're supposed to be all deep. You got a dashiki on. You was a part of what is it, True Colors or something like that? I don't know. So you're supposed to have all this indigenous knowledge of ancient times and ancient African customs and indigenous customs and all this. You're supposed to have all this deep knowledge, right? You're supposed to have all this awareness and history. You're supposed to be a psychologist, but you have whittled the LGBT fight to wanting to be able to practice having sex with other people. No. Are you trying to forget that people who were called gay, just for being called gay, or just be for being gay, were thrown in jail, were beaten, were accused of being a pedophile or sex offender? They were considered sex offenders for being with a consenting adult in public or even in private. If they got caught in private, mind your business. And people want to talk about, oh, well, we don't need to know what's going on in your bed. Well, back in the day, in the 70s and beyond, people was all in people's windows, would get thrown in jail, would get beaten. Folks just literally back then, now it's a whole nother thing, right? But back then, folks wanted to be able to like be themselves, even if they twisted a little bit, even if they're not trying. To be themselves and not get fired from their job. They wanted to be able to get an apartment with the person that they're in love with, right? They wanted to be able to not get discriminating in housing, like I said, to not be discriminated walking down the street, right? Similar things as, you know, Black people, but we can't do that. We can't compare that. I already know. So, but yeah, that was the actual struggle, like getting things that normal human beings already have. You get what I'm saying?
The struggle for
I hate when
Black
people play
folks
dumb.
is a struggle to be treated like a human being.
That's what I just said. The struggle for gay folks has been a struggle to be treated like a human being. And we're going to sit here and pretend that the most dangerous people, okay, the most violent people towards gay people, we're going to pretend that those people are not Black men. We're going to pretend that the people who actually do the opposite of treating people in the LGBT community, or even people that even think that are part of the LGBT community, as less than human, are not Black men. We're going to pretend that. We're going to play dumb and act like little like gay men, right, are not abused and beaten down and raped by Black men. Okay, that consider themselves straight, whether it's in jail, out of jail, or whatever the case may be. We're gonna pretend. We're gonna play dumb in our minds. Okay, so y'all, we're gonna pretend like it's like if for a masculine woman to walk down the street, out of anybody who's gonna talk say something stupid that makes them feel like less than a human being, we're gonna pretend that the main person that's actually gonna do that is not a Black man. We're gonna pretend that that's not the case. Okay, that is the case. That's the case. I have never had anybody say anything to me out of line, okay, just for walking down the street being myself, other than a Black man. Other than a Black man. Okay. Do I hold that against Black men as a whole? Do I say, oh, I can't stand Black men, I will never be around, I don't condone that you're a Black man? No. I'm constantly surrounded by Black men. Those are the people that I've always been closest to since birth. Okay? I don't condone your Black manness. I don't condone. No, Umar, no. Stop it. Stop playing. Give me a play. This is why I'm not pro-Black too. This is also like, the moment I stopped being pro-Black is the moment I realized that it's impossible to be gay and Black at the same time in the Black community, right? It was after Trayvon Martin died, and this is before I watched, I don't remember his name. But anyway, it'll come to me if it's meant, okay? It was before I watched a breaking down what is really going on with a lot of these police brutality cases, okay, and how it's used to trigger our emotions and get us in a state of fear and anxiety and different things like that, constantly in a state of mental enslavement and lack of peace, right? Before I realized that, out in the streets, ready to protest, ready to, do what I need to do for my people, right? And they had different town hall meetings. It was like every week they had a town hall meeting, and I'm at every town hall meeting. They just so happened to have a town hall meeting about Black family and relationships. And I was like, maybe I should not go, because I already know that somebody is going to blame the problems in Black families and relationships on gay people, which how? But they always find a way. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be optimistic, and whether people say it or not, they're not going to say anything I haven't already heard, but I'm going to listen and be there like I have been at every single other program. Okay. So I went, lo and behold, that came up, and they asked people to say what they think about that. And I just said what I thought about it. I don't think that, because of course you have people emasculating the Black man out here, men twerking, and women need to stay in their place, and whatever. And I'm like, look, I said, you said your piece. I feel like I should be able to have my opinion. It's not like her, where somebody's on stage. It's not an open discussion like that. Somebody's on stage, well, I'm going to put you in your place. It wasn't that situation. It was a situation where I haven't thought about that. I have opinion. Okay. If you want to talk about the problems within the Black family and relationships, love relationships, a gay person twerking who has no interest in being in a heterosexual relationship, how would that hinder a straight relationship? If a straight relationship doesn't hinder a gay relationship, how is a gay relationship going to hinder a straight relationship? Like, that has nothing to do with it. And I feel like by placing blame on something that has nothing to do with it, it's like lack of self-awareness and lack of accountability in your own relationships. Like, deal with the relationships that you have. Like, how? Right? And I just said my piece, and I was done. Okay. And I actually had people agree. It was like, yeah, I mean, that kind of doesn't make sense, really. But then at the end, I was like, I would like to actually do more than just be in discussions or whatever. Like, he talked about at the end of it, he's like, we have different things. You can be a part of our group, and we go out and we give to the homeless, and we clean up the streets and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. So I go to the table at the end, and I'm like, what do I need to do to sign up, to be more actively a part? And the same guy who brought up, gay men twerking or whatever, he tells me that he's like, oh, we're not trying to be that diverse. And I'm like, well, bitch, I'm Black. What are you talking about? And it's just like, or I'm considered Black, whatever. And it's just, so you don't want gay people in your own. So you're blaming gay people for problems in Black relationships, right? But then you have a gay person that wants to help physically in the community, but you're not that diverse. You don't want that help. You don't want that help. Right? Wow. Right? And you know what? I realized over years and years of research and study, that's exactly what the white supremacists want. That is the generational curse of AIDS, the fight against AIDS. Why? Because gays are helpers. Gays are AIDS. They are AIDS, right? They are AIDS. They are the helpers of the community. They have more time. They are very abundant when it comes to creativity and coming up with solutions for the whole of the community and not just their little family, because their existence isn't based on a family unit. It is based on the community, right? Oh, you can't have a child if you're a gay man, you can't have a child with another man. If you're a lesbian, you can't have a child with another lesbian. But I can do work. I can create in the world to help the world a better place for the people who do have children. I can help clean the streets. I can help give to the homeless. I have time. I don't have children to pick up from daycare. And even if I did, like, that's my energy, right? We are AIDS, but they're fighting against AIDS. They spend billions and billions of dollars to fight against AIDS. Not only is that money going towards the cure for AIDS, but it's going towards the propaganda to fight against AIDS. Okay, I'm gonna leave y'all with that. I'll see y'all on the next video. Like, subscribe, comment. This ended up being a lot longer than I thought it would be. I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, but comment below what you think about this. What you think about AIDS? What you think about the gay community versus the Black community? And I will see y'all on the next video.